What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to day, that's way out here, 10 of 3D printing. All right, like 3D printing is just frustrating if there's not specific things that'd be really, really helpful to know. And one of those being is heat, playing with heat, not with fire, but with heat. That's what this thing is right here. In my office space, when I'm doing these videos or 3D printing at home, this office is next to an exterior wall and can get a little drafty. That small temperature change between the wall and the atmosphere and the printer was actually causing some of my prints to fail. So this helps keep the environment around the 3D printer nice and warm. Here's what some failed prints look like from an improper heating environment for your 3D printer. So if you're finding yourself that your 3D prints do well, really, really well, and then pop off the plate all of a sudden, what the heck's happening? And that's because the print is coming off of the build plate. That could be for a whole slew of reasons, but most likely it's going to be the environment around your 3D printer is not conducive to a consistent temperature. Thermal expansion. When stuff gets hot, it expands. When it's cold, it shrinks. So if you have a very long print next to an inconsistent environment, that filament's going to expand and shrink as airflow goes past it. And when that happens, you're going to curl or warp off of the bed, and then your print fails. So how do we fix that? One way is to get a cage. Now, I don't like this cage, actually. It was a little bit of the cheaper ones because it has like this sticky latex film layer to it. Yeah. In any case, but it does its job. It prevents the heat from escaping outside of the printer. When we look at this, so somebody sent me this picture and says, "Why is my print failing?" And I said, "Oh, easy. Like it's bump up your build plate temperature." And then the next day they sent me this picture. Oh, there we go. There's that picture. And it prints just fine. So the problem that they were having was exactly what I thought, is that their build plates wasn't hot enough. How do we do that in Cura? So let's put up Cura. Let's get our XYZ cube pulled in. When it comes to calibration cubes, it helps you figure out, is your X, Y, and Z axis calibrated well enough, and how to read it, more on that later, to fine tune those three directions. But when it comes to these printers, we're going to change the settings based upon what we need it to do. And what we need this to do is to increase the temperature, not of the extruder, but of the build plate. And by bumping it up a couple of degrees, it keeps it nice and warm. So that's one way to fix it. One way is to bump up build plate temperature. Second thing is to get a cage. If you don't have a cage and you're still having temperature problems, literally put a cardboard box around it. Now, how do we also prevent build plate adhesion from pulling off of the plate? So we bumped up the temperature, and we think, okay, temperature is not a problem, or temperature was a problem, but I can't change it anymore based off the environment it's in. Say if you're in a school building and the AC kicks on and kicks off and kicks on and kicks off, what could you do instead? And we're going to go down to build plate adhesion. There's a couple of build plate adhesion types. You have skirt, brim, and raft. Let's walk through each one of those and kind of uses for them. If you are really, really good at printing, you won't need an additional build plate support around your print, but you might want to do a quality test beforehand. And that's what a skirt does, is there's a couple layers that print around your print to say, okay, is it calibrated? Is it printing clear well enough? And then before it starts printing, you can either resume print, change some settings, so on and so forth. So skirt is for those really nice finishes, but I would call this a higher level of skill needed. What I teach my students is to use brim. Brim will take that skirt and take it all the way to your print body. Now this edge right here in this surface does tend to look a little bit ugly, but for a successful print and less skill quality needed, this tends to work really, really well. One option here that I tend not to use very much is raft, is because what it does is it takes the brim and adds a couple layers to it. One, this wastes more filament, and two, I actually find out that when you snap off this raft on the bottom of your print, it tends to make that surface look uglier than if you did a brim. So I tend to say, okay, tell my students, use a brim, adds more surface layer, and if it's really not sticking well enough, then you also need to bump up your temperature. You could, if you are star-spangled awesome, need no build plate adhesion, and it just prints as is, but I very, very rarely see people print with none at all. That's a super high level quality of skill, and also super high level quality and trust in your printer. If you get good enough, I would say, like, what is the standard of professionalism is if you can get to the point where you can trust your printer and yourself to only have to use a skirt, you've made it. Okay. All right, guys. Hopefully this was helpful on you troubleshooting your printer on how to get it to work if you're having build plate adhesion problems. But in any case, you guys are awesome. Stay awesome, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.